It all happened like I knew it would. A single drop of source magic. And, like flies to honey, the monsters swarmed. The rebel panicked. The carnage began. And the Magisters pointed their fingers at me. Just as I'd planned. I was shackled and collared, and sent to Fort Joy. I'd come here to kill Godwoken. But instead I became part of their story.
The things I do to complete a contract. Nice haircut, Smiley.
Now, where did I leave my calipers? There. Not too tight, I hope. The collar, I mean. Oh, not to worry. Every dog has to get used to its leash. In the meantime, your next stop will be Magister William. All passengers have to be registered in the ship's manifest, and he's the chap in charge of the law. You'll find him on the other side of this deck, in the officers' quarters. Why, for my peace of mind, of course. Why don't you try casting one of those source spells of yours? See what happens.
Currents of magic surge inside you, boiling, bursting, then breaking, only to fade back into your soul like rain into the earth.
My, look at the concentration on your face. All will, but no result. There you have it, see? The collar's function. It neuters you, of sorts. Make for your own peace of mind, of course. Yours and the whole world's. Dungeon? You have the gall to call my laboratory a dungeon? Oh, I'd be quite annoyed with you, if you didn't look so honestly perplexed.
Index fingers pressed to her lips, she pauses a moment to give you a scrutinizing gander.
My word, you do seem a bit befuddled, don't you? Perhaps I was a bit too generous with that sedative. Oh well, I'm sure you'll soon gather your wits. Most likely. Eventually. In the meantime, all you need to know is that we're en route to Fort Joy. A new life awaits. And if you're a particularly good boy, perhaps a cure as well. An end to Source. For good.
A young Magister stands pale and silent. Her knuckles whiten around her weapon as you pass.
Blood him.
Behind the Magister, a bloodied mass lies in a heap. Gore and limbs lie at odd angles. You can't make out a face amid the mess.
There's been a murder. A sorcerer was killed by one of your own. Lucky you were busy getting your collar fitted at the time, or you'd be a suspect like the rest of them. Waters is investigating. She'll figure out who did it. It's a small ship. His name was Finn. Oddball. Looked to me like he saw something he wished he hadn't before he came here. We'll find out who did it, one way or another.
Ugly sight, isn't it? Burns me up this happened under our protection. We're extremely lucky no Voidwoken followed the source that did this.
She looks up at you with a mirthless smile.
I was on duty in your room when the murder happened. You were asleep the whole time. Didn't even... You're one of the only indisputably innocent people on the ship. Unless you can commit murder in your sleep, of course. I thought as much. Listen, I could use someone to keep their ears open among the passengers. Sometimes they clam up in front of a uniform. Bring me a good lead, and I'll throw in a shiny gold coin for you. How about that? Not in here, it isn't. You let me know if you hear anything. Whoever did this is dangerous. No known associates. In fact, he seemed quite averse.
The hatch is blocked. I'll need to find another way.
Come on, please, Osa.
I forgot how to sing. I did.
Ah, there you are. Husband, would you please tell this very charming gaggle of not-at-all brat-like babes that I am by no accounts this Losa woman, nor do I sing, in fact. I'm deathly allergical. How very correct you are, spouse of mine. Madame Josephine Gribbles de Peeb refuses to be confused with anyone else. What? What's so fun?
Her pinched face cracks into a great grin, and she shoos the children away.
Yeah, okay, you found me out. Go on and git, and maybe I'll sing you something when...
She turns to you, dark-eyed and dirty-haired, and smiles.
Gotta keep ourselves entertained, haven't we? You'd presume right. Nope, trying not to find anything out either. Ignorance is bliss. The utterer, the better. Thanks, but I already belong to an elite and exclusive ship gang. We play ball every day after lunch. You're too soft for it. You take care, though.
Suddenly, her eyes cloud to an unnatural black. Greyish veins run down her face, and her mouth tightens into a cruel. As quickly as they came, the clouds clear. She smiles.
Good luck, Chief.
They don't care about us. We're like cattle to them.
I'll give you that knuckle if you keep carrying on.
You! Sorcerer! One of us. Blood?
No.
Go!
Can we just
Name?
skip to the part where I reassure you and you shut up?
Well, you aren't here on my list. Scrammy. We're trying...
Insufferable, surely.
A broad dwarf sits totally upright on the bench, eyes closed, palms face up on his knees. His beard is a cascade of meticulous plaits, each one braided through with golden medallions. He raises an eyebrow as you approach, but doesn't open his eyes.
Listen up, boy. You hear that? The ship, of course.
A wave of sound washes over you. The unintelligible chatter of your shipmates, the groaning of wood from floor to ceiling, the boom, crash and crackle of waves around you, complaints from the sea itself.
There's nothing else I can make, Your Majesty. Turnips and water are all I was given.
Unacceptable.
And?
I've never dined on anything less than a dozen-course dinner, and I don't intend to do away with the custom.
Well, there has been a murder, Your Majesty.
The fellow cocks his ear, listening.
The Magister's more concerned.
That isn't anger. It's...
He cocks his ear to the other side, then smiles.
Anticipation. She senses something. I'd hold on to my breeches if I were you, mate. That's all you hear, though. Listen close. There now, just like that. Aha!
His eyes snap open as his countenance breaks into an expression of joy. One great paw claps you on the back. The other catches you before you lose your footing.
There. You heard it, didn't you? I knew it. I knew it. Aye, this is good news, boy. Good news. It's the wheel. The wheel. Don't you see, you beautiful idiot? Squeaks whenever the helmsman jerks it clockwise, which means we're heading east. Burn my beard. That means if we've been travelling for, yes, only 10.34 nautical miles to Fort Joy.
There has been a murder, Your Majesty.
No indeed, boy. But that ain't my final destiny.
The dwarf leans back from the table and strokes his beard, gold medallions jingling merrily. His eyes roll over.
That'll be all. Thank you kindly, boy.
He continues stroking his beard, a beatific smile on his lips, and doesn't acknowledge you anymore.
Well, well. What have we here? A fresh face in this stale hell. Let's size you up, shall we?
The lizard looks you up and down, like a farmer would a fetching horse. All of a sudden, he grips you firmly by the chin, with the intent of inspecting your teeth.
There's some discoloration, but I've seen worse. After all, one can't expect to find prime merchandise on a squalid little ship like this. Now then, to business. You will answer me 3 questions. The first one is this. Music to my beleaguered stomach. On to the second question. Can you knit, weave? In short, tailor? Oh, but to feel the caress of satin on my scarlet skin once more. A most satisfactory answer indeed. On then to my final query. Have you the ability to administer the upkeep of one's personal appearance? The delicate art of cosmetics is what I'm after. The very basics, then. I suppose that's a start. So, 3 questions asked, 3 questions answered. Let's evaluate. As per your own testimony, you can cook, tailor, and groom. Well, that just about settled. I offer you my sincerest congratulations. As of now, you are my slave.
Till overboiling a bit of cabbage becomes a crime, I shall hold...
My slave, of course. Oh, but... I see. Yes, I suppose it must take some time for the full extent of this honor to sink in. Anyway, you may leave me for a moment. We'll go over your duties once we reach Fort Joy. Now shoot!
Would you put a knuckle in it? I'm trying to concentrate.
I spent my life singing for my slaves to bring me my supper. Finer fare than boiled roots and rotten tubers, too. Meanwhile, the Magisters feast on honeyed meat behind this very wall. The
Can we just skip to the part where I reassure you and you shut up?
An elf sits tucked away in a dark spot, lazily rolling dice onto the surface of a barrel. They sound like the dry cackling of an old witch.
Snake eyes.
She chuckles.
I bet that's just what they'll look like.
She shakes her head.
Game for one, I'm afraid. Rolling dice, deciding fates. Don't worry, honey.
She looks you up and down, with the merest hint of a coy smile on her lips.
Never say never, though.
She eyes you quite seriously.
Not the future, no. But I can read the past in flesh. One of the perks of being an elf, you see. I'm quite good at it, too. I could lick your arm and tell you how you spent the night before last. Shall I?
She gives your arm a vigorous stroke of the tongue, efficient like a cat grooming.
You were in a cellar with other sorcerers. As everyone lay sleeping, it seems you and another elf engaged in an action somewhat similar to the one I just performed. Only rather more vigorously.
She pats you on the shoulder, consoling.
There, don't you worry, darling. Your secret's safe with me. I don't lick and tell.
I'll give you that knuckle if you keep carrying on.
The Magister starts, recognition growing on his face as he looks right at you.
You look...
The Magister's face turns white. He makes a move to step backwards, then stops himself as his hand closes on the weapon at his hip.
It is you. Ifan Ben Mesd. I remember you. You were my captain's commander way back in the war.
The Magister's eyes darken. His face
I always knew you'd end up down low. Lower even than us nobodies in the rank and file. The higher the climb, the louder the splat when you fall. In Fort Joy, you're about to fall further than you thought possible. And I'll be listening for the splat. Happy landings.
I'm trying to concentrate.
They don't care about us. We're like cattle to them.
I'll give you that knuckle if you keep carrying on.
One of us wouldn't kill our own.
Here to register, sir. Good. Magister Williams is just about done with the last passenger. You faring okay so far? Glad to hear it. You head on in now. Williams will get you sorted fast.
The elf is reading a volume of Cranley Hubert's famous encyclopedia. He looks up. His big round eyes, he reaches out and takes your hand, turning it this way and that, examining it from every angle. Finally, he pinches your skin, gently tugging at it.
Fascinating.
He sits back and returns to his book, flicking quickly from page to page, completely oblivious to your presence.
Oh no, my instinct to survive is quite strong, as with all mortals. I'm not sure why you would... Oh dear. I seem to have crossed some cultural taboo. How... difficult. You have my apologies, human. Perhaps I should demand the same from those red-cloaked humans. They laid their hands on me more than once. Perhaps. Perhaps not. Understanding is all rather relative. Take this book, for example. I understand all of it, and yet none of it makes sense. It is simultaneously too detailed and insufficient. I know the beginning of this tale and the end, but I am rather missing the middle. Tell me, what do you know of our world's history? Oh, please. I have no interest in that. Your books are too full of it already. No, I want to know about the Celestial. I want to know about your gods. This text tells me that they created all creatures, but nothing of what came before. Where did these gods come from? Who are their people? Where are the others of their kind?
The elf's face freezes for just a second before he waves his hand dismissively.
Oh, it's just one of my idle curiosities. We mortals do like to consider these things, do we not? Now please, run along. I have a world to decipher.
Don't get saucy with me when you clearly don't know the first thing about swords. And if she tries to run...
Standing at the center of the room, you spot a sorcerer haughtily eyeing a pair of nervous-looking magisters. They keep their crossbow trained upon her as she's being interrogated by an officer.
So you admit it then? You murdered that poor fella?
Yes, I did. But of course, that was only the beginning.
She turns her head and looks you straight in the eye.
There are others whose lives must end.
Good God! The woman's mad! You there, sorcerer! Go and fetch Magister Siwan! We need to do more than collar this maniac. We need to shackle her, hands and feet.
It means your journey draws to a close. Do stick around for its finale, though, because...
She reaches for her collar and simply removes it.
I'm just about to create a scene.
Subdue her, men, quickly! If she casts Source, the Voidwoken will come. They'll end us all.
She smiles with wicked satisfaction.
Precisely.
What's happened?
The young woman lies in a heap on the floor. She's breathing normally, but her eyes are wide open, like those of a corpse. Dark, greyish-black clouds swirl through them. The hound paws desperately at its snout. It winces as it draws blood from its wet black nose and continues scratching. The dog notices you for the first time and snarls. The hairs on its back prickling as it lowers itself into a lunge.
You sorcerer!
It sneezes suddenly and paws at its nose once more.
Can't smell. Can't breathe. Too much sauce. Too much. Too much. Please, make it stop.
The dog whines and continues pawing at its nose.
Damn! That doesn't bode well. Onwards and upwards.
Thank the gods! By divine grace, what was...
He eyes the collar circling your neck and reaches a hand towards his blade.
Another sorcerer!
The Magister's companion doesn't blink, frozen in place at the sight of you.
Like you don't know? Mutiny! Did that witch fix your collar too?
He whispers loudly to the other Magister.
Don't just cower there, Rix! Take out your blade!
Rix grabs his sword, which shakes in the rhythm of his trembling hand. The Magisters look to each other, then back to you, and unsheath their blades.
Your lies end here! Get him!
Thought Rivellon was flat.
Ah, Alexander. Just in case we forget who holds us captive. Gods damn it. Need to get off this wreck. Quick. Not long before this thing snaps into splinters.
Something's pounding on the hull!
Through the door and are suddenly face to face with an undead. His skull is bizarrely angular, and a glorious jewel sits in the middle of his forehead. The skeleton is quickly leafing through a volume of Cranley Hubert's famous encyclopedia, muttering to himself.
No, no, no! What damn fools record knowledge on a pulped tree? It catches fire, it turns into must when wet, it cannot even resist acid! No wonder they're so bloody ignorant.
The skeleton looks up and notices you for the first...
Oh, it's you. Shouldn't you be running and screaming or some such?
The skeleton groans and looks back to his book, frantically flipping from page to page.
Yes, indeed. It's the look of someone that wants to read the bloody book he's holding. Now, if you're really quite finished, I believe you have lifeboats to flee to. Please, I was no more an elf than you are those rags you're wearing. I had a mask, rather ingeniously designed, which allowed me to take that primitive form. A mask that was stolen by that damned witch after her little scene. Still, she'll drown with the rest of these fools, and I will simply pluck my mask from her cold, dead hands. Indeed, just as sensible as getting off a sinking ship and leaving a fellow to his business. I would say good day, but it seems quite likely that you're about to die a rather terrible death, so...
The skeleton shrugs casually and returns to his book. The marking on the door was painted recently, judging from its pungent scent. You recognize the symbol immediately for what it is. A warning of death fog within. You press your palm against the door to open it. The wood feels neither cold nor warm, but simply grey. The color drains from your hand, and you are left numb. It doesn't budge. The door groans open, but an ashen shadow clouds your mind.
Death fog! I need to get out of here now! That means there's still a chance.
Shut your trap, kid. Children and dwarfs first, just like the old stories say.
The dwarf yanks at one of the nearby ropes to no avail.
You said there were other people down there. We need to help them.
You see those tentacles, kid? It's time for getting the hell out of here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you! There's a ladder right over there. You can go straight down.
You're gonna be the death of us, you hear?
If you can walk, get yourself up the ladder. There's a... Wait! Voidwoken!
I thought Voidwoken was supposed to be scary.
let the games begin. Greet the Reaper for me.
They who are about to triumph.
These beardless bugs won't sink the ship on my watch.
Away! The sea's hungry. We don't have much time.
We make a pretty good team.
I hear something.
She tries to speak, but can only gape as she clutches her neck, trying to stem the bleeding of a gushing wound. With jagged movements, she raises her clenched fist and holds out a length of cloth, soaked with some kind of strong-smelling blood, quickly soaks through the cloth. Magister Siwan's mouth opens and closes, her eyes wide in terror. It's working. The pressure is stemming the flow of blood. Siwan clutches your arm, her eyes locked with yours. Something within the ship snaps. The floorboards shudder. Siwan struggles to her feet, clinging to you tightly. The ship lets out a deep groan, then cracks.
Gods. It's ripping the ship apart. This is it. She's going down.